Tonight, prepare for delays. Perth's road network set to be brought to its knees with a major protest in tomorrow morning's peak. Barich Cable primed for a legal showdown, the disgraced footballer in court to deny raping a 9-year-old girl. The biggest social media crackdown we've ever seen, putting a target on trolls and bullies. Police pinpoint their search after the discovery of Samantha Murphy's mobile phone. Burswood waterlogged, the WA Day Festival upstaged by Mother Nature. The event on the Swan cancelled over safety fears. And Italian stars enjoying downtime down under before their Perth showdown.
Live from Perth, 7 News with Rick Ardon.
Good evening and welcome to 7 News. Perth drivers are being warned to prepare for a peak hour commute like they've never seen before. Major roads into the city could be choked by a convoy of 1,500 vehicles tomorrow. Commuters have been told to consider taking public transport or even working from home. James Carmody explains.
Morally bankrupt. You are nothing but morally bankrupt.
Poorly received by opponents in Canberra.
Absolutely morally bankrupt to sit there and value the welfare of a sheep in Australia over that from another country.
Legislation to phase out live sheep exports even less welcome by the industry in WA, with hundreds hitting Perth roads tomorrow to disrupt traffic.
We won't accept anything other than a full revocation of that legislation.
I'm not aware of a convoy of this size being in the CBD before. It's 1,500 plus vehicles, so it will be interesting.
4 separate convoys will set off at 8 a.m. from different corners of the city, with trucks leaving from Peel, Neerabup, Bedfordale and tractors coming from Fremantle. They'll be followed by utes, cars and buses. The plan is to choke all of Perth's major traffic arteries. Big trucks will get off just before the city, but smaller trucks, tractors, cars, utes and buses will go right into the CBD.
We're not apologetic, but we understand that there will be some disruption. What we do hope is that they will support us and understand why we're out here. The people of Perth can't live without farmers.
There will be significant delays on the Kwinana Freeway, Mitchell Freeway, Stirling Highway, Mount Spey Road and Riverside Drive.
One of the key things that the teams in here will be looking out for is any trucks that break down in the middle of those convoys. They'll have heavy towing vehicles on standby. Police priorities, ensuring emergency services can get around and making sure tempers don't flare.
Whilst we recognise their democratic right to protest and we support that, we won't tolerate any unlawful activity.
Be patient and also be cautious.
James Carmody, 7 News.
Disgraced footballer Barich Cable has pleaded not guilty to raping a 9-year-old girl. The charges date back to the 1960s when Cable was 24 and at the height of his AFL career. Lucy Murray reports.
Camera shy at home and at his first court appearance. Will you defend these matters? The disgraced footballer focused on his former premiership team.
Talking about the footy and how North was going.
In a brief hearing, Barich Cable pleaded not guilty to 7 charges, including rape and indecent dealing. The alleged victim, a girl just 9 years old. The allegations stem back to the 1960s when Cable was at the height of his AFL career. Considered one of the greatest rovers, he won 2 premierships with North Melbourne and 3 Sandover medals in the WA competition.
Everyone loves a hero, and Barich Cable is just that.
Not anymore. He was stripped of his legend status last year. A civil court found other child sex assault allegations to be substantially true on the balance of probabilities.
It's horrific, and I think it left the AFL with no option.
Today's matter relates to a different woman who only recently came forward. A criminal case will require a higher standard of proof. The 8-year-old plans to defend the charges. He'll be back in court in August. How do you feel about the charges? The war of words will be left to the courtroom. Lucy Murray, 7 News.
Roger Cook has promised Perth women will be heard, and he'll put updated family domestic violence laws to Parliament next month. After the Floreat tragedy and chilling interview that criticised police, officers won't confirm if they checked the killer's gun collection when warned a Glock pistol was missing.
2 days after Ariel Bombara's desperate plea,
I want answers.
They're proving hard to find.
We need to actually allow the investigation to run its course.
Have you reached out to Ariel Bombara since Tuesday?
During the last 12 months, we have worked tirelessly to address issues with regards to family and domestic violence, and we'll continue to do more. My office has reached out to representatives of Ariel, and we will obviously always take the opportunity to work with anyone in the community.
Have you spoken to the Minister for Prevention of DV since the weekend?
Look, my office has been working with her office, but I've been working mostly with the Minister for Police.
12 months after he was sworn in as Premier, Roger Cook says combating a surge in domestic violence has been and remains a priority. Police who spoke to Mark Bombara after his estranged wife and daughter called for help in March have told 7 News they feel their hands were tied. The Premier's vowing to review police powers, but was unable to say why the current ones weren't good enough.
Have you checked that legislation since Tuesday?
I haven't had the opportunity to check it myself.
The legislation says a police officer may make a police order in accordance with this division if the officer reasonably believes that a person has committed family violence and is likely again to commit that violence. It's open to discretion. What criteria did Ariel Bombara's plea not meet?
So the police will continue to provide information to the public in relation to these operational matters.
If police think an escort is warranted, bulletproof vests are warranted, common sense suggests there's danger.
We'll continue to make sure that we provide information with regards to the operational matters associated with this incident, and we will look to see how we can continue to upgrade and update our laws to make sure police are better equipped.
Legislation to track repeat offenders was promised in October,
which we will be updating in the Parliament next month.
But murder was Mark Bombara's first offence. A new Firearms Act is set to limit most individuals to 5. He only needed 1, a Glock. His daughter apparently told police was missing.
Is it not under current laws a requirement for firearm licence holders to properly secure their weapons?
I believe so.
Would you not expect police to check that?
I would expect police to carry out their jobs with the best possible operational oversight within the law.
215 licences were revoked in 6 months due to family violence. 13 people have won their guns back on appeal. Mark Bombara didn't have to.
My key responsibility as the Premier for Western Australia is to keep Western Australians safe.
Can you guarantee they'll be believed and that something will be done to a woman who calls police today saying that, as Ariel said, there's a real and imminent threat to life? Will that be heard?
Every person that calls the police, that seeks support from the police, will be heard, and their requests will be considered, and considered sincerely. I can say that because I know our police.
He says their job is hard. It's his job to make it easier. Jessica Page, 7 News.
Libby Mettam wants WA's corruption watchdog to investigate the police handling of the Bombara warnings. The Liberal leader has written to the boss of the CCC asking for a separate standalone probe. The request came after the powerful statement from Ariel Bombara, who claims her safety fears were repeatedly ignored by officers. Ariel's father went on to kill Jennifer and Gretel Patelchik, who'd helped protect her terrified mother. For the first time, social media giants will be forced to reveal how many users are underage. It's part of major reforms that are aimed at keeping children safe online. Companies must put the best interests of the child first, with new measures to tackle the growing challenge of artificial intelligence.
It's a message to social media giants tonight. Australia expects more.
The harmful impacts of social media, particularly in relation to children.
This challenge
to our way of life.
The government's strengthening what's called the Basic Online Safety Expectations, now requiring social media to ensure the best interests of the child are a primary consideration, tougher controls on the use of AI to produce and share harmful images, and new powers to force companies to reveal how many users are underage. But even with growing calls for a 16-year-old age limit for social media,
until these companies have effective age assurance systems in place, it's going to be hard to do anything like a ban.
The federal government now funding a trial of age verification, but the challenge isn't just technology. In the UK,
38% of parents have assisted their children in lying about their age to get
to join social media sites before the age of 13.
I don't think it'd be different in Australia with those sorts of pressures.
This is not going to be a snap thing that happens overnight.
Paul Kadak, 7 News.
7 News has confirmed the mobile phone found at the edge of a Victorian dam yesterday did belong to murdered mother Samantha Murphy. It's a big breakthrough for detectives. The question now is whether vital details can be retrieved to help locate her body.
Less than 24 hours after finding Samantha Murphy's phone, detectives and cadaver dogs were scouring bushland nearby. They're trained to find human remains.
Ultimately, it's of great significance. Now, whether that has already come from data on that phone, it's interesting to note that it's a targeted search at that particular time.
Ms Murphy's husband, Mick, has confirmed to 7 News his wife's credit cards, licence and iPhone were uncovered in mud at this dam yesterday.
The ideal situation is you could fire the phone up and someone would have her PIN and they'd be able to get in and see everything that's on the device.
It's the crucial piece of evidence police had been hunting for.
It might be interesting as well to see if that device has any other location data on it that might help them retrace her footsteps up until the point where she disappeared.
Today's search began shortly after lunchtime in bushland south of Buninyong. The location is 18 kilometres from the Murphy family home, but only 2.5 k's from the dam where Samantha's phone was found. It's not yet clear if police have managed to turn the phone on or retrieve data from its SIM card.
Bearing in mind that the phone possibly may have been submerged in water, we don't know how long for.
Worst case scenario is that the device won't boot and that there's nothing readable on the disk, either because the disk is damaged and destroyed by the conditions it was in, or because the disk is encrypted and protected from an unauthorised party being able to access it.
It's been 117 days since Samantha Murphy's disappearance shocked the nation, and with the prime suspect still refusing to cooperate, investigators have been waiting for a breakthrough. Finding her mobile phone has re-energised the search. 22-year-old Patrick Stevenson is charged with Samantha Murphy's murder. He's due back in court in August. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
The opposition has turned the blowtorch on the Prime Minister. It's over the saga that's seen dozens of hardened foreign criminals keep their visas. Peter Dutton claims the direction relied on in those cases was ordered by Anthony Albanese to please New Zealand.
With the Immigration Minister on the ropes now taking aim at the top.
Why did this weak and incompetent Prime Minister put his close and sycophantic relationship with Jacinda Ardern ahead of the safety of Australians?
Attacking over this meeting just 2 months after his election, agreeing to soften Australia's migration laws through Direction 99, so New Zealand criminals who'd long lived in Australia weren't automatically sent home. The Prime Minister arguing the change merely extended the impact of others made by coalition governments like Direction 90.
Direction 90 talked of a higher level of tolerance for criminals who've lived in the Australian community for most of their lives.
But Direction 99, introduced by Immigration Minister Andrew Giles, had a profound impact, reaching far beyond New Zealand, leading to dozens of hardened criminals from a range of countries having their deportations overturned in the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, including murderers, rapists, pedophiles. That direction now being urgently rewritten.
We've got to get it right. We've got to get it in place quickly, but it's got to be effective.
The change in tactics taking this controversy into dangerous new territory for the government. The opposition trying to put Anthony Albanese in centre frame.
Jacinda Ardern played him like a fiddle.
The Prime Minister was the architect of Direction 99. He did it as a commitment to Jacinda Ardern. He's put our country at risk.
All the anger's there in just one question. The anger, the abuse.
And it seems there's much more to come. Mark Rowley, 7 News.
Terrifying new details have emerged from a report on the Singapore Airlines flight that was hit by deadly turbulence. Passengers plummeted more than 50 metres in 5 heart-stopping seconds.
It all happened in the blink of an eye.
Like you just jumped off a building.
The whole plane was shuddering.
And the first report from investigators shows just how close the Boeing 777 came to disaster.
The report was dramatic.
The plane's black box and voice recorder have revealed that when it hit the turbulence, it had what's called an uncommanded jump in altitude. It went up. So the automatic pilot reacted by pushing the nose down and increasing the speed. It was a violent correction, and the moment all hell broke loose on board.
The 777 did really well to survive it.
Passengers would have felt a breakneck change in G-force, from negative 1.5 G to positive 1.5 G within 4 seconds. From cruising at 37,362 feet, we now know the jetliner plunged 178 feet, or 54 metres, in less than 5 seconds. That's less than the length of the Boeing 777 itself, and nowhere near the kilometres first reported. But this likely resulted in the occupants who were not belted up to become airborne.
It is truly monumental forces happening to the aircraft. The aircraft was stressed to its limit.
One expert said it was like putting an egg in a metal box and shaking it violently. Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Perth's sudden surge of rain has led to the decision to cancel the WA Day Festival. Public safety is the reason. The site is already waterlogged and the weather is only expected to get worse. Organisers had been in regular contact with the Weather Bureau and were reviewing the forecast on the hour. Tens of thousands of people are expected to descend on Burswood for 2 days of family fun and entertainment.
Very disappointed. The WA Day celebrations always bring out families to really enjoy it, but we're looking at trying to reschedule something later on this year.
Community celebrations will still go ahead in Albany, Carnarvon, Geraldton, Kalgoorlie, Fremantle and Northam. A centrepiece of this long weekend is the Western Australian of the Year Awards. Charlotte Goodlett is at Crown tonight. Charlotte, tonight's about celebrating outstanding contributions to our state.
Good evening, Rick. It certainly is. And wow, the finalists this evening are just so incredible. We have everyone from Melbourne Cup winning jockeys to paediatric cancer professors to young people who are really shaping our future. The Western Australian of the Year Awards, presented by BHP, have been running since 1973, and the roll call of previous winners really is a credit to our state. And tonight we will be crowning a new winner from 21 finalists across 7 categories. As I'm sure you can see behind me, the room is starting to fill up, the music's pumping and the champagne's starting to flow, so it's sure to be a great night, and anyone who's nominated tonight really has made a fantastic contribution to our state.
Thanks, Charlotte. And Sam, as we've heard, the WA Day Festival has been cancelled. How heavy is it looking for the long weekend?
Well, it was a smart call, Rick, because Sunday is going to be wet and wild. We're expecting up to 60 millimetres of rain and a thunderstorm, and that ground is already saturated. It's not all bad news. We will have glimpses of sunshine over parts of our long weekend, and I will have that full forecast a bit later. That rain just kept coming today. Showers on and off all day. We had a top of 20 degrees, and last night it dipped to 10.6, so it felt quite chilly as we were getting up this morning. We had 4 mils of rain in Perth since 9 a.m, 16 for Bullsbrook, 10 for the Swan Valley, and top temperatures range from just 16 degrees in Kalamunda to 20 in Jandakot and Fremantle, and then we had 19 further south. Now, that cloud band causing our weather is slowly moving on, but a strong cold front is expected to move through later on Saturday, right through until Monday. And Rick, I'll tell you when and where it's likely to rain this long weekend right after sport.
Thanks, Sam. You're watching 7 News live from Perth. Coming up, the race to put out a fireball at Ascot. A 4-wheel drive on fire. What sparked the flames? Details next. Major Bast Border Force seizes thousands of litres of a date rape drug. Where it was headed. Under fire, which media boss is facing a public grilling over racism? Away from Optus, how these soccer stars have been spending time off the Perth pitch. And later, an awesome family reunion to meet the woman who's tracked down her long-lost brother after 8 decades. A dramatic car fire has been captured on video. The Hyundai four-wheel drive exploded into flames in Ascot around 6:45 this morning. Fire crews managed to contain and control the blaze just before 7. No one was injured, with the cause believed accidental, possibly an engine fault. Thousands of litres of a potentially deadly date rape drug destined for the streets has been confiscated. A federal police and border force blitz led to the seizure of 4,200 litres of bute in Sydney. It's an industrial chemical used to make plastics, mainly imported from China.
The chemical has been increasingly linked to sexual assault and drug overdoses in Australia.
The importation was outlawed in March when new legislation kicked in. The ABC's managing director says he wishes senior political reporter Laura Tingle never made the comment that Australia is a racist country. David Anderson admits the claim did not meet the public broadcaster standards, but says Tingle deserves to keep her job.
Under fire.
That is a disgraceful statement.
The ABC's managing director, David Anderson, grilled
Ms Tingle has expressed regret. That was a mistake.
over these comments from his chief political correspondent.
We are a racist country, let's face it, we always have been.
I'm not embarrassed by it. I wish it hadn't happened.
Laura Tingle says she was responding to this.
The great Australian dream of home ownership has turned into a nightmare. The government has brought in an additional 923,000 migrants in just 2 years.
Laura Tingle's outed herself now as somebody who is a partisan. She's a Green/Labor supporter.
Claiming Australia has a record of racism.
I believe we are in danger of being swamped by Asians.
I wasn't saying every Australian is a racist, but we clearly have an issue with racism.
You definitely get the lower jobs than what you're qualified for just because you're an immigrant.
In a statement, ABC's director Justin Stevens said Laura Tingle's comments lacked the context, balance and supporting information of her work and didn't meet editorial standards.
Should Laura Tingle leave the ABC?
I don't believe so, Senator.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
A jury has begun deliberations in Donald Trump's hush money trial. They talked things over for 4.5 hours before being sent home for the day. Even without courtroom drama, the former president was fuming.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged.
Trump must remain at the courthouse while the jury is out, keeping him off the campaign trail. A man accused of driving on a suspended licence has appeared in court remotely from behind the wheel of a moving car. A judge in the United States couldn't believe his eyes when the defendant popped up.
So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended?
That is correct, Your Honour.
And he was just driving, and he didn't have a license.
That's when the penny dropped for the driver, who was then ordered to turn himself into the county jail that day. Ahead tonight, the full Australian experience for Perth's high-profile visitors, where the soccer stars spent their downtime. Families seriously stressed, mums and dads struggling to balance work, life and kids. South Africa goes to the polls. Could the party of Nelson Mandela finally lose its grip on power? And later, famous faces as the Archibald finalists are revealed. Passionate soccer fans have travelled from near and far, flocking to HBF Park this afternoon to get a glimpse of global superstars. As Lockie Byrne reports, players from AC Milan and AS Roma received a West Aussie welcome of their own.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic was known as the Lion, but it was the Aussie wildlife that took centre stage for AC Milan today. After Kings Park for a traditional welcome, the Stars visiting Caversham Wildlife Park, meeting our WA Stars from Little Joeys to Fat Cats. Both teams training today, the $5 entry going towards telethon.
There's about 7,000 tickets sold to be here to watch these two powerhouse teams train this evening.
The Milan fans came out with voice, none more excited than Perth's Lenko family.
Forza Milan! My connection is back in 1980 when they first played here in Perth.
which was in June at the Wacker. That was my first introduction to football in Perth. So I didn't know any other club, so it was AC Milan or nothing.
More than 50 years later, it's not hard to see their love of the club, from tattoos to personalised licence plates. AS Roma have been studying up on their Perth knowledge.
Which Australian rules football team plays in Perth?
GWS Giants. Oh my gosh.
And will take to the field tonight for training. You can see the match AC Milan versus AS Roma tomorrow night live here on 7 after the news at 6. Lockie Burns, 7 News.
GWS indeed. Nines and Battles CEO still has his job tonight. Mike Sneesby survived a marathon board meeting that lasted 5.5 hours. It was about the handling of sexual harassment allegations against Darren Wick. Anonymous staffers had accused the former news boss of drunken and inappropriate behaviour. There will now be an external review, a dedicated hotline to report sexual harassment, a company-wide survey and sexual harassment training. Darren Wick left in March, reportedly with a near $1 million payout. A new survey of working families has found Australian parents are seriously stressed out, juggling work and childcare commitments. Major contributors include the cost of living and, for women, their unfair share of housework.
2 kids and a mortgage. Working parents Emily and Daniel. Busy.
Going from one thing to the next, always trying to balance it all and try to have it all.
It's incredibly hard to fit in our own wellbeing and self-care with 2 kids.
A new survey of working parents finds in 5 years there have been few improvements.
Results are stark, they're disappointing and really perhaps not surprising.
Parent stress levels are markedly higher than 2019, both up 23%. The cost of living, say working mums.
The worry of looking after my son, childcare is ridiculously expensive.
Interest rate hikes obviously just are a big influence on stress levels.
Working mums still do nearly double the load of household and caring duties than men.
Really, caring is still seen as a woman's job.
I definitely think that I do my part.
Women are more likely to use flexible work arrangements, men more reluctant to take time off, and half of all respondents worried favouring their families might see their commitment to work questioned.
Parent groups say the aim should be to make Australia the best place in the world to raise a child, but that may have to start with turning around our dwindling birth rate.
The Treasurer would like to see it.
They want us to have more babies, but they don't want to support us going back to work.
Chris Marr, 7 News.
A seismic political shift is underway in South Africa tonight as the party of Nelson Mandela is forecast to lose its tight grip on power. The African National Congress is expected to slip into minority government. There's even a chance it could lose the presidency as post-apartheid politics is impacted by a dire economic situation.
The moment polls closed and the counting began in an election that could upend South African politics.
So help me God.
It's 30 years since Nelson Mandela was elected president, helping to end apartheid and minority white rule. His African National Congress has held majority power ever since, but South Africa's problems have mounted. Unemployment is at 32%, the world's highest. Entire communities, mostly black townships, go months without water or electricity, blamed on entrenched corruption and mismanagement.
I have no doubt whatsoever the people will once again invest confidence in the African National Congress to continue to lead this country.
Among the 28 million South Africans on electoral rolls, an entire generation considered to have been born free, never knowing life before Mandela.
We are young and there's no job for youth. We have degrees, we're not getting jobs.
I'm just really interested on where this country's going to go now from this election because it's really a critical point right now.
Former President and ANC leader Jacob Zuma has started a rival party and is likely to split the vote. Most expect the ANC to cling to power via a coalition, possibly ushering in even more unstable times. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Coming up tonight, a win for Australian beef farmers, the global superpower that's ended its export ban on our abattoirs, plus the Australian street artist who's just scooped a portrait prize. Finally found after 8 decades, an emotional reunion for 2 siblings separated as children.
And coming up in sport, an Eagles veteran gets a surprise call-up as Fast Freddy returns for the Dockers and a lifelong fan tries to buy the Wildcats.
Now, Fuel Watch. Perth's petrol prices brought to you by Fuel Watch and 7 News.
The future of free sport on TV and streaming in Australia is back in the spotlight. The Greens have tried to amend the Albanese government's bill. The proposed laws currently favour foreign-owned streaming companies over Australian broadcasters.
Half of Australians are going to be locked out of watching sport for free. If you have a smart television, if you watch sport or television on your phone.
The Greens' changes would protect free digital streaming access for Australian audiences. China is reopening more trade with Australia. A majority of bans on the beef industry have now been lifted, meaning exports can resume immediately.
In more good news, I can reveal that last night we received notification that 5 more Australian meat processing establishments have had their suspensions removed.
The trade war that began during COVID wiped $20 billion in exports. That's now down to $1 billion, including a ban on Australian rock lobster. With cans of spray paint and one of Australia's brightest talents as his subject, a street artist has claimed the curtain-raising award at the Archibald Prize. The portrait of rapper Baker Boy is one of dozens of pieces now in the running for the top prize.
From the brush comes the bold, bright and best of portraiture.
From sports stars, musicians, fashion designers.
A lineup of distinguished figures including this Wild Wild Wiggle and a floating Julian Assange. 57 Archibald finalists from 1,000 entrants.
There's a lot of people that are wanting to say something. And that's what artists are picking.
The first top honour to street artist Matt Adnate, winning the Packing Room Prize for his depiction of rapper Baker Boy.
It's done with about 90% spray paint. I never thought that this would be something that I could achieve.
I was very much captivated by Baker Boy's gaze. You can see the land painted within his eyes.
This year, a record number of Indigenous entrants for the Wynne and Sulman Prizes too.
The attention now turns to the announcement of the Archibald Prize next Friday, when the trusted panel of judges will peruse the exhibition the day of, making a decision too difficult to predict.
But often I have seen it change from everyone agreeing to one to everyone agreeing to the other. It's a really incredible process to watch.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
Time now for a check on the markets with finance editor Gemma Acton. And Gemma, the markets can't seem to catch a break.
No, just like last week, this has been a gloomy one for the ASX 200, with local shares still reeling from yesterday's higher than hoped inflation numbers and a poor session on Wall Street overnight. The Aussie dollar has lost its footing, dropping back beneath 66 US cents, while iron ore keeps edging a little bit higher every day. And the 10 richest Australians are together worth more than $300 billion, with mining magnates dominating a list headed up by Gina Rinehart. The co-founders of technology unicorns Atlassian and Canva made the top 10, as did property developer Harry Triguboff and cardboard king Anthony Pratt.
Still to come tonight, the siblings separated as children. A woman's heartwarming reunion with her long-lost brother, seeing his face for the first time in more than 80 years. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. But first, Barra has sport, and Andrew Gaff is back for the Eagles, Barra.
He is, Rick, yes. He's coming in from the cold, you could say, and importantly, he won't be playing in Northam against the Perth Demons on Sunday. Big changes for our local teams. Gaff, Flynn and Petruccelli return for West Coast, while Fast Freddy is back for Freo. And could the Wildcats' biggest fan be buying the club for $40 million? The West Coast Eagles will unveil off-season recruit Matt Flynn against the Saints on Saturday at Optus Stadium. The former Giants ruckman played in the Waffle last weekend and has fully recovered from a hamstring injury. He's one of 4 changes. Veteran Andrew Gaff returns for his first game since round 1. Jack Petruccelli and Harry Edwards are also in. Jack Williams and Tyrell Dewar have been dropped. Jaden Hunt is injured, while Josh Rotham is out with illness. They take on St Kilda, who've made 3 changes following the loss to the Demons. Tim Membry, Hunter Clark and Dan Butler come into the side. Liam Stoker, Cooper Sharman and WA's Lance Collard are out. And Michael Frederick is back for Freo. The speedster returns after missing a game with concussion. The Dockers are yet to finalise their squad for the clash with Melbourne in Alice Springs, but Neil Erasmus and Sam Sturt have been added to a 26-man group. Michael Walters has been named, despite Justin Longmuir suggesting he needs to lift. And the coach is also backing youngster Jai Amos to realign his kicking radar after just 4 goals in the last 5 matches.
Yeah, he's lost a little bit of confidence in his kicking, but we can get that back. He's got a lot of evidence to suggest he's a good shot on goal, so that won't take long to get back. A bit of confidence in front of goals, but his confidence in his game is actually growing. St Kilda game a couple of weeks ago, he did a lot right to get 6 shots on goal, so take the positive out of that.
Let's hope he's right. North Melbourne coach Alistair Clarkson has avoided a sanction for using vile language because the AFL couldn't determine if he'd used the bad language at an umpire. The league has also denied umpire coaches influence game day decisions. Here's Theo Duropoulos.
Well, if you've thought for a while umpires are hearing voices, well, you'd be right. But don't be fooled by the hype. It's far from a conspiracy against your favourite player or team.
We will never tell an umpire during live play what free kicks to pay, and we don't talk to them during live play because they're constantly talking to each other.
Well, in a throwback, the Bombers have avoided a virus sweeping through the club by enforcing protocols, and despite being half a game clear in second, Brad Scott still isn't ready for the F word.
The risk for us is that we take our eyes off what's really important right now and start thinking or even imagining what is possible.
Have to imagine it soon. Now, he's still cuddly Ross despite sitting in 15th. The Saints boss feeling very Olympic when describing his team's battle with confidence at 3 and 8.
It's nice to have, but you don't need it to be successful. There have been plenty of Olympic swimmers get on the blocks, not confident they're going to win gold, but all they do is get into relentless action.
And there's not much better in our game than when defenders do the job of the forwards. Demons Stephen May snuck up the pointy end to kick his first goal in 4 years, pleasing more than just his teammates and coach.
We brought some mums over during the week for Sir Doug Nicholls rounds. The morning of the game, he said to her, "I'm going to kick a goal today for you." He was that nervous about kicking the goal because he's already worked out his celebration.
Nice, and how's this for a debutant announcement for WA Tiger Caleb Smith while making coffees with his coach?
In. Yeah, you're in this week, mate.
Thank you, Rory.
You're a star.
Thank you so much.
Absolute
Thank
star,
you.
mate.
Thank you. I can't wait.
Well deserved, mate. Very good form.
Yes, mate.
Very good form. All right.
Thank you.
You can breathe.
Breathe, Caleb, breathe. Yes, it must have been a good brew. The East Fremantle product will play his first AFL game on Saturday against the Cats. And a kid who grew up supporting the Perth Wildcats became a millionaire, and now he wants to buy the team. It's the stuff of fairy tales, and West Aussie entrepreneur Mark Arena is living it. The lifelong Cats fan is offering Sports Entertainment Group $40 million for a 90% stake in the team, but the deal is subject to NBL approval. SEG bought the Wildcats for $8.5 million just 3 years ago. And Matilda's superstar Mary Fowler says every training session is vital as the team builds towards the Paris Olympics. Coming off the best season of her club career with Manchester City, Fowler will be the key to Australia's medal hopes.
We're the kind of team that tries not to waste a single session, so I think camp's been really good so far. Everyone's taken it seriously and trying to get the most out of it while having fun as well.
The Matildas play China at Adelaide Oval tomorrow night in the first of 2 Olympic farewell friendlies. And French Open Queen Iga Swiatek is keen to see more respect from fans. The telling during the rallies.
When you scream something, do...
Aussie Open champion Yannick Sinner crushed Richard Gasquet in straight sets. And former West Coast Fever star Courtney Bruce is hoping to return against her old team this weekend. The star defender, though, must pass a fitness test first. Yeah, it was a really tough decision for Courtney to leave Perth, Rick. I remember she said, "I still bleed green," so that's a big thing. So a big game for her this weekend. Hope she goes well.
Yeah, we all do. Thank you, Barry. Long-lost siblings have been reunited for the first time in more than 80 years. They were separated just as the Second World War was breaking out. It triggered a decades-long search for reconnection.
Hello, Marjorie. Now I can see you well.
Yeah, I can see you too.
Hello, terrific.
Marjorie Hamilton hadn't seen her youngest brother for 86 years until today.
Overwhelmed. Overwhelmed and shocked.
Yes. Separated as children, the siblings now live more than 1,700 kilometres away. 94-year-old Marjorie in Melbourne and 90-year-old Ted Clissold on the Gold Coast.
Few more wrinkles than what I had, though.
I think we all have.
When their father died in a horse riding accident in 1939, Ted and his 3 brothers were placed in a Salvation Army boys' home. Ted was just 4. Years later, Ted's adopted family tracked down Marjorie via Ancestry.com.
Have this family connection, not just for Marjorie and Ted, but also for the next generation too.
At the same time, Marjorie's daughter Kathy had been searching too.
Happy tears. I'm overwhelmed.
Marjorie and Ted are now the only surviving siblings. Both are in good health, great-grandparents, living independently. And after this long-awaited reunion, there's more conversations ahead. The two families with years of memories to catch up on. Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
Wonderful to see. Sam Jolly's back now with your long weekend forecast.
And it is a mixed bag, Rick. A sunny start, but some very heavy rain is forecast as well. I'll have those details next.
In 7 News.
Yes!
Treating back pain as child's play. Relief without the surgery.
It's paid off. I'm wonderful now.
The high-tech help giving Aussies their lives back.
Got them to start thinking about pain differently.
Our exclusive medical report. 7 News at 6.
Welcome back. We had showers for much of the day and it was a cold start. It dipped to 10.6 overnight before a top of almost 20 degrees. Right now it's still 15 degrees in the city and the winds are light. We had 4 mils of rain in Perth since 9 a.m, 16 for Bullsbrook, 10 for the Swan Valley, and top temperatures range from just 16 degrees in Kalamunda to 20 in Jandakot and Fremantle, and then we had 19 degrees further south. The cloud band causing our weather is slowly moving on, but a strong cold front is expected to move through later on Saturday through until Monday. Showers for Brisbane, Sydney and Canberra tomorrow, and it's looking wet with a top of 17 degrees for Adelaide. And around WA tomorrow, partly cloudy and 29 in Broome. Showers are increasing across our southwest and it's going to be cloudy in our Great Southern. So tomorrow it will be partly cloudy with some fog about the hills. Our southwestern suburbs will get showers but little chance elsewhere. Then to kick off the long weekend and the first day of winter, a sunny day Saturday, then late showers and a possible thunderstorm, 23 the top. Heavy falls on our Sunday, up to 60 millimetres in the morning and the afternoon, and the chance of a thunderstorm. It mostly clears up for our WA Day long weekend on Monday, 20 degrees. And congratulations to Tom and Rita James of Victoria Park, married on this day 60 years ago. They settled in Carlisle where they raised 3 children and celebrated their milestone with a special family lunch. And now for tonight's winning Powerball numbers. They are 35, 2, 3, 33, 20, 22, 10, and that Powerball is 9. Those numbers are 35, 2, 3, 33, 20, 22, 10, and the Powerball is 9. Now here's Mark Lecras with your boating and fishing details.
Well, we've had some wild conditions around the water lately, but there's still a few windows to get out and have some fun. Let's check it out. Expect northwesterly winds about 10 to 15 knots before dawn, then becoming northerly 15 to 25 knots in the morning. Seas 1 to 1.5 metres and a west to southwesterly swell 1.5 to 2.5 metres. The low tide at Rottnest just after midnight tonight. The highs at 2:35 p.m, similar times at Hillary's. If you're keen on a surf, it's not looking great with northerly winds making it a bit sloppy over the next few days. The forecast after this weekend's front has Monday looking like a cracker day for a wave though, so pencil it in. If you're wetting a line, there's been reports of a huge school of yellowfin tuna, all between 20 and 40 kilos, boiling up on the surface about a mile south of Rotto last week. Pink snapper and Samson fish have been very active around the 3 Mile Reef off Hillary's and Ocean Reef. And the North Moles produce some massive mulloway and a few salmon for land-based fishos. And check out these viewer pics. Jordan could add pink snapper as another species being caught off North Mole after catching this ripper. Neil Ferguson landed this big sambo off Rotto on light gear after a 20-minute battle. And how's this 95-centimetre jewfish caught by Kevin out off Rockingham? What a ripper. Well, we love seeing your pictures come in each week. Keep sending them to fishing@7.com.au for your chance to be featured, and I'll catch you tomorrow night.
And that's 7 News right up to the minute on this Thursday night. We'll be back with updates for you throughout the evening. For the latest stories, head to 7news.com.au. Enjoy the rest of your night here on 7.